This is the voice of the Report of the Week, signing on. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone listening. This is VORW, the voice of the Report of the Week, another program about 3.5 weeks, give or take a few days, since the last show. VORW is a YouTube program, audio only in length, in which I discuss the channel, all matters pertinent thereto, and I also read and respond to listener letters and discuss miscellaneous topics. VORW serves as a good way to really get to know more about the channel and get to know more about the channel's host, that being me. And I'll also discuss some other topics, really anything ranging from, of course, food, suits. You'll hear a lot about Shortwave Radio in it, and literally anything in between. I also, again, read and respond to your letters, so if you want to get in contact with me and hear me respond to your letter verbally, and you have any questions for me, anything you'd like to say or contribute, feedback is always welcome at repweekinterview1@gmail.com. The address will be stated later in the video again. So first and foremost, I hope you all are doing well. I hope you are. It's late August. Late August, I think it's, oh my goodness, I forgot the date, I'm sorry. August 20-something, Saturday night, early Sunday, I guess it is actually. I'm sorry, I don't know the date, I just lose track of that, I hope you understand. There's 3 topics I want to discuss in this VORW, and I'll discuss them really for as long as necessary. You know, there's no time limit or time restriction on this program, so I'll talk for as long or as short, really as I do. You know, I don't time myself, I don't pace myself, I just talk for as long as I talk for, and that's it. And as a result, you'll get some shows which are 3.5 hours long, and you'll get some shows that are an hour long, but, you know, I just talk for as long as I do. Anyway, there's 3 topics that I want to talk about. Number 1, at this current time, the news headlines are really talking about 2 things. They're talking about that fight, the McGregor versus Mayweather. I believe that's the last names there. I'm not into sports, really. I don't follow that. You know, whoever wins, wins. That's it. That's all there is to it. Someone's going to emerge a lot richer, but that's it. And then a lot of people are talking about Hurricane Harvey. I'm sure it's going to be a non-issue by the time I finally get this up, but there's some points that I want to address with that. So I guess this is a VORW Hurricane edition, and I'm going to talk about some of that stuff for a while. It's kind of on my mind, so while it's there, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about some issues that YouTube has given the channel, but I could understand why, and we'll get into that as well. And then lastly, I'm going to mention some changes and some very important things when it comes to the radio broadcasts. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. This will be a show of some varying topics. Then, of course, after that, just free-form discussion if there's anything left. And then, of course, comes the fan mail segment. Alright, so stay tuned, buckle up, get some water, ice water from Starbucks, whatever it might be. And let's get this show on the road. First, let's make sure we're recording here. Okay, we are. That's good. Alright then. Well, I guess we'll do it in order. I guess we'll start with the hurricanes. Hurricane Harvey. You know, I don't know how well this is worldwide or even nationwide, but I've certainly been following it very, very vigorously. I've been monitoring live updates for days now. You know, literally from the moment I wake up till the moment I go to sleep, I'm checking the live updates, you know, trying to get the, be very well informed, I suppose, as to what's going on. with that. And it's crazy how those storms are. It really, really is. Just 2 days ago, it's late Saturday, early Sunday now. A few days ago, Wednesday, it wasn't even on the headlines. No one cared. It was just some measly little tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico. It was going to make landfall in Texas. That was understood. All of a sudden, just the conditions are right. It's understood. It strengthens to this immense Category 4 storm. Very strong 4, almost 5, but Category 4 hurricane. Extremely strong winds. 150 mile per hour gusts and 130 sustained. Just smashes into coastal Texas. And, I was watching that guy, Jeff. I think a lot of other people were too, on Periscope, his live stream. That guy is he's a seasoned veteran in terms of storm chasers. We'll talk about him later, but he's this guy, I was watching him, he knows what he's doing. And he got some of the best footage of a hurricane I've really ever seen live. He's there in this town of coastal Texas called Rockport, which really isn't huge. It has a population of around 10,000 or so, coastal area. And, he's in the eye wall. The storm stalls out. Just these, extremely strong winds. Everything is just falling apart around him. It was crazy to watch live. You were genuinely concerned if he was going to live or not. It was that intense. Anyway, though, this storm makes landfall, weakens a bit, but it suddenly just stalls out over this part of Texas, and they could be getting anywhere between 20 to perhaps as almost close to 40 inches of rain in some parts. And already Houston, Texas, I'm watching these rain bands just hit the city, pummel. One rain band, things start flooding. Then a second one just emerges and merges with the first, and it's just insane. You see this flooding that's starting to come, and power outages, you name it. I'm hoping that it's not going to be a huge, major disaster, but these next few days are going to be very important into seeing that. If the flooding continues, it might just seem like one long rainstorm, but if it just doesn't stop and it just keeps going and going, and the water, starts accumulating, and then all of a sudden the road in front of your house starts getting obscured with the water, and then all of a sudden that level starts getting higher and higher, and depending on how it's managed, if communications are severed, whatever, you could find a major disaster on your hands right there, with the possibility of tens of thousands of people suddenly stranded, maybe not equipped to deal with that situation. You don't expect the street in front of your house to be a canal suddenly. You can't escape. Don't have any clean water. No food. Who's to say? Just hope for the best, but really, who's to say? I can't predict the future, but I'm really keeping a close eye on it. I know there's already been a few fatalities and many injuries and lots of devastation in the coastal areas, so it's a definitely not a laughing matter at all. I think it really deserves to be getting more coverage than it already is. But it's no joke. It's when I first saw it, I kind of had my doubts about the storm, because you hear so many times nowadays with the hurricanes, the media, they just get so hyped up, and then it just is a blowout. But you can't take those chances. You really can't. And I wasn't sure about how this would end up, but it certainly seems like it's a very severe storm, and absolutely no laughing matter. So anyway, I've been following that a lot, and I usually follow these current events pretty vigorously. I watch the live streams, I try and find any radio broadcasts, if applicable, etc. And, there's one thing that kinda, it makes me think a bit. It's in times like this, when I see these storms and these, extremely strong hurricanes that just completely level an area and isolate it. It makes you realize, in a way, the importance shortwave radio can have. Because I'll explain it this way, right? You have a hurricane situation such as Hurricane Harvey, right? And you're even near the coast or inland, whatever it might be. So you're there, you're monitoring the situation, you tried to hunker down, whatever it is. You got some water stockpiled, Don't know how bad it's really going to be. And you're watching the TV, kind of browsing around online, trying to, get updates on it. All of a sudden there's this huge gust of wind and lights flicker and that's it, it's off. Power's out. With that, the TV's gone. You can't watch the local news station anymore. Well, alright. I'm going to use my phone. I'm going to try and, just see if I could pick up anything on that. Very weak, maybe one bar or whatever. Able to kind of get some patchy updates here and there. Wind intensifies, suddenly no signal. Well, okay, I got this, emergency radio here. Maybe I can try and pick up some local, AM, FM stations, perhaps. You're trying to listen, you're trying to tune around to the local stations. Storm keeps intensifying, wind is getting worse. Sounds like a freight train outside. The wind is probably now into the 110s, maybe 120 miles per hour. Rain is just pouring down. The radio towers for these local stations aren't standing a chance against that. The threat of flooding also, lack of power, forget it. And those local stations are done. Studios are either shut down, they had to evacuate, get out of there. You're completely in the dark. You can maybe barely pick up a weak AM signal, but compared to the sound of the storm noise, you can't really hear anything there. You can't venture outside. It's way, way, way too dangerous. How do you get your news, One thing that a lot of people forget about is shortwave radio still exists, and it's still there. And theoretically, if you were in that area and you had a shortwave radio, there could be a transmitter 2,000 miles away, safely in Florida and New York, Pennsylvania, could broadcast right down to Texas there. Clear signal, strong signal, with the latest news and information, you could still figure out what's going on. That's where shortwave radio comes in a disaster type scenario. So that's the amazing thing about shortwave radio, and one of the things really that I think is underappreciated about it is the distance it could travel. And it is there when literally everything else fails. And that's been proven time and again during natural disaster, war, dictatorship, you name it. It's been proven time and again. Internet doesn't work, TV doesn't work, unable to be reached via local AM, FM, even satellite is impossible. Shortwave radio, it's the one true standard, still makes it in. And that's one reason why I advocate it so much. Of course, you can listen to my own show on it, which I broadcast vigorously, and I always encourage it. But it can be quite useful and quite handy, you can say, in a disaster scenario. Another thing about shortwave radio, if you buy a shortwave radio, the AM/FM reception is, I would literally say it's a lot better than anything you would find on probably any of the radios you have in your house right now. If it's an old boombox radio or a alarm clock. If you buy a shortwave radio, it comes with AM/FM reception too. It'll put those other radios completely to shame in terms of reception of that too. But it's just as I think about these natural disasters such as Hurricane Harvey right now, there's a complete communication blackout in some areas. shortwave radio can still be quite important in terms of getting possibly essential life-saving news and information. It's something I recommend. This is my shtick. You long-time listeners completely know that by now, but it's something personally I think everyone should have. Whether you use it or not, that's irrelevant, but it's something to have on hand, because you never know. I remember back in Hurricane Matthew last year, Voice of America set up some special shortwave broadcasts to the region with news. And God forbid it actually had made landfall. Those probably would have come in handy to, at least to me and likely other people who have emergency radios, etc. Back in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit, some local stations actually got on shortwave WWL and broadcast to the area for months. Served as a lifeline to many. So it can be useful, it really can. Again, it's something that goes completely unknown and underappreciated by many, but I hope you can see at least that it can be a very important thing to have in a disaster if the S ever truly hits the fan where you are. You can get a shortwave radio for as cheap as $20. There's some really good ones out there that, that you can buy for that rate. There's some other good ones that you can get for $50, $100. If you're interested in buying one, let me know. I'll recommend you some good models. I'm dead serious about it. And if you want to listen to my show on shortwave too, I'll give you the frequencies. But it can be a very important thing to have, I think, in a worst case natural disaster. And you might think, well, it's not going to happen to me. I mean, the people right now, and in those areas of Texas, 2 weeks ago, they think that their house was going to be completely leveled to the ground. No, they were probably thinking about getting some eclipse glasses to watch the solar eclipse and have fun with that and enjoy the summer, and 2 weeks later their house is completely leveled. Homeless now, possibly on the verge of death, who's to say? You can't predict this stuff, but you could be prepared for it. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I'm sorry, I wanted to get that out there, number one. Number two, back to as I was saying with these hurricanes. I have been following this one. It's worse than they predicted, in my opinion. It could definitely be a catastrophic event to the region, but anyway, I wanted to continue on with some of my own recollections of hurricanes. I mean, it's definitely not something that I've been in a ton of times, but in my life I've had significant experiences with around 4 hurricanes. 4 hurricanes, I believe 3 of them were major hurricanes. Because I lived in New York most of my life. And New York doesn't get hurricanes a lot, but it certainly is a region that is still susceptible to them. And that presents some problems when it comes to the architecture, because one thing I notice in this area, some of the houses are very smart in terms of construction. They build the houses out of, out of stone, out of these concrete blocks, and it's able to withstand all of these storms and hurricanes that's left standing. But up in New York, the houses are made out of wood, of course, and when it comes to those very strong hurricane force winds and flying debris, it's a legitimate, very scary situation, I'll tell you that. The first hurricane that I ever experienced, I was young, was Hurricane Floyd. I believe that was back in 98, 99 or so. And I have vague memories of it, but I was young. And I do remember kind of looking out the window and seeing all the wind and rain, and I know that I remember the basement flooded, and there were a couple inches of standing water down there, and I wanted to kind of run around and play in the water, but none of that, quick to put an end to that, because that water can be very unsafe, of course. And again, I was quite young, so I don't really have huge memories of that, but that was the first one that I went through, Hurricane Floyd, late 90s. Then there was a long period where there might have been like a tropical storm or something like that that might have hit the area, but nothing of any sort of significance until 2011, when Hurricane Irene impacted the New York area. And that one I remember beforehand, they were making a big deal out of it. I remember I was at a Pizza Hut. Even back then I loved Pizza Hut, and still do. Stuffed crust is amazing. And they had a television on the wall, and they were showing a forecast, and there was off the coast of Florida, heading up the East Coast, Category 3 hurricane. I was just really hoping. I was saying, please, I hope this weakens by the time it gets up here. And it did. As a matter of fact, it wasn't that bad at all. It rained. I remember that. It impacted... It wasn't a long event. It impacted, for the most part, just overnight. Might have began at around 7 p.m. and by 9 a.m. it was all over already. So it passed by quick. And it really wasn't that bad at all. I remember that. It was like heavy rain. Lots of heavy rain that came down for hours. But in the end, there wasn't too much wind. There were gusts of wind, and a few gusts that were a little nerve-wracking. But the power held up. The lights might have flickered once or twice, but in the end, the lights stayed on. Internet connection was there. The television was still on the entire time, and I was able to enjoy it mostly from just the couch and watch the local news and for the up-to-date coverage. And even though the eye of it passed by very, very close, it just wasn't that bad. It was one of those hurricanes that just rapidly weakened, moved into colder waters, whatever it might be. Just rapidly weakened, and it was a rain event. There was a little flooding in the street, but it wasn't that bad overall. And perhaps as a result, that kind of gave me an incorrect impression about hurricanes, because after that, for about the next year, I didn't really think too much of it. I thought, well, I was in Hurricane Irene. It was a former major hurricane. It impacted the region. It just rained a little bit with a little bit of wind, and it was nothing. And that was the incorrect ideology to have. That was just luck. Pure luck. Because sure enough, about a year and a few months later, because I know Hurricane Irene, I believe, was in August 2011. About a year and a few months later, by late October of 2012, sure enough, just another year later, Hurricane Sandy. And Sandy, that one was the worst one I had ever actually been in. And that one again was, I had gone into it with a little bit of a kind of cocky attitude, because, and I think a lot of other people in the region did too. Well, you experienced Hurricane Irene and it was nothing. It's like a rainstorm and that was it. So why would Sandy be any worse? I mean, it's actually, if Hurricane Irene literally went right up the Hudson River there, and Hurricane Sandy is going to impact on the Jersey Shore 70 miles to the south, I mean, it's not even going to be anywhere near as close. Alright. I don't think it's going to be that bad. That's what I thought going in. And of course, there were a lot of precautions taken. A lot of businesses closed down right when that was going to happen. People stocking up on supplies anyway. I believe the governor and the mayor, they declared a state of emergency and took no chances, but That's when I really got to experience the hurricane force winds. Because Hurricane Irene, when it impacted the area, was a weak Category 1, if at most. Might have been a tropical storm already. And it was a rain event. Hurricane Sandy, on the other hand, was a strengthening Category 2. It was a Category 3 originally, then it weakened a bit, but then it got into some warm waters and started strengthening again right before landfall. And that was I believe it was a strong Category 2. I don't have any reference, I might be incorrect, but I believe that's what it was. And it wasn't even a rain event, but it was a wind event and a storm surge event. And that was a real, a true hurricane for me, at least. When already, it was supposed to start impacting that evening. And by like 2 p.m. already, the winds were already gusting up to 40, 50 miles per hour, which was much stronger than what I had really experienced with Hurricane Irene. So already then I was kind of getting nervous, and I had my camera and I was taking hour by hour updates, and if I can ever, it's on my old computer, if I could ever find that footage, I'll upload it one day to the channel, and if I find anything good, I could let it serve as a little archive or something of how it really was. But I was taking hour by hour updates of the storm, and it was progressively getting worse and worse. And it was the wind that did it. That's what did it. Whereby 7 p.m. or so, as it started to make landfall, and again, this isn't even that bad when it comes to the scale of hurricanes. You got lucky. But you had, 70 to, 70 mile per hour sustained winds with gusts up to 90 or so. And again, I understand, completely and totally, in the world of hurricanes, that is nothing. But when you're in a area where all the houses and everything around you is, completely made out of wood, and with these I guess you'd say with these gusts and strong winds, you feel all the entire frame of the house just shifting, and you see these trees everywhere just look like they're going to tip over any minute, and they're not flexible palm trees by any means. You get scared, and the lights start flickering on and off. You lose the television and internet first, and the phone lines go down. Then the power finally goes off as well. Power's off. The you can see trees falling down everywhere. Roads are starting to become blocked. You see, these electrical flashes in the distance of the live wires just, flopping around. Really, in many areas, unable to respond. It was a legitimate hurricane in that way, and that's the first time really I started understanding the importance of radio. Because we broke out an emergency radio. It was a wind-up radio, a wind-up multi-band radio, and set it up and started tuning around, because that was the last link to everything. Lit some candles and set up this radio, and were able to find a station at this point. A lot of the AM stations and FM stations that were connected, they dropped the music formats or sports or talk formats and were just airing constant news to the area. We were just trying to tune into for updates, while the storm just raged outside. And it was a very severe storm, no doubt about it. and eventually it did clear. Was able to get a tiny bit of sleep, and the next day, you know, you really understood the impact it had on this region. And again, this is just a Category 2. A Category 5 would have, I say without a doubt, destroyed everything. You know, there wouldn't be anything left standing, because the place was torn apart by a Category 2 hurricane. No one had any power, no television, limited radio. Flooding in some areas, storm surge destroyed the New Jersey coast. There were gas shortages, there were these insane lines for the gas stations. Even in some areas, you know, some food shortages too. So the place was just a mess for weeks afterward. And you know, I remember we were lucky. We got power back. And this is just so thankful. The power company was great. We got power back in a couple days, but what took a long time was the television and internet. You know, it was about I would say 3 weeks without any of that. So that was you know. Oh, that's when I really started using the radio for entertainment, and I didn't really listen to any shortwave at all then, just AM and FM, but I had this radio, and you know, there was nothing else. No internet, no TV, so I just read a lot and listened to the radio all day, and that's really how I passed the time, you know. So that was the most severe hurricane I was ever in. Ever since then, I understand that they aren't, you know, if you're in the path of a hurricane stronger than a Category 2, so a Category 3, 4, or 5, I mean, you get out of there, you know, I wouldn't recommend trying to ride the storm out, just get out of there. And that ideology was really put to the test last year. Here in Florida, because sure enough, another hurricane, I believe it was October again, Hurricane Matthew, and keeping an eye on it, and Category 4, I believe it was. And again, with the Category 2 being so severe, Category 4, forget it. It was supposed to, you know, come, you know, just hit Florida hard. Go right up the coast, you know, hit Orlando especially, with just complete hurricane force winds, huge amounts of rain, mass flooding, you name it, just complete disaster. And they were saying, just evacuate, just get out of Florida, get to the other side of Florida, whatever it is, just get as far away from it as you can. And that's what I did. Went over, evacuated, because I, didn't want to take any chances. So evacuated out of there, we got a hotel room. There were some issues with that, I'll tell you that. Some billing problems trying to scam and overcharge, but I'd rather put up with that than possibly die in that storm. And thankfully, the eye of it stayed off coast. But had it moved inland, it would have been a disaster. But given the strength and intensity of Hurricane Matthew and the risk that it posed, the Voice of America, which is the United States international broadcaster run by the government, someone at the VOA was smart enough to understand the importance of shortwave in one of those situations. And I remember just before evacuating, the day before, I was scanning around on the shortwave dial, and I've listened so often now I could really just memorize where the stations are and what they are. and I heard this very strong, unfamiliar station on a frequency. And I was listening, and then sure enough, a news bulletin came on from the Voice of America, and they were rotating between bulletins in English and Creole as well. I figure they must have understood perhaps the audience demographics or whatever it might have been, because Radio Marti, which is also a government broadcaster, already kind of has the region covered in terms of Spanish broadcasts, and they were already covering the hurricane, so I guess to focus on other communities, they added on other frequencies non-stop broadcasts in English and Creole. And yeah, it was a way to stay up to date, for sure. But that one was no joke, and I didn't take any chances. And I'll tell you this, and I'm sure going forward there'll be other cases similar. If there's a hurricane that'll impact Category 3 or higher, I'm getting out of town. You know, that's it. I'm not going to ride it out. I'm going to evacuate, get as far away as I can, and as they say, play it better safe than sorry, right? You know, no harm in evacuating any way you can. As if, God forbid, the storm did impact and it was as bad as they had predicted. You know, you could lose your life, you could die, become seriously injured. It just takes one piece of debris to do it. You know, or the storm surge is bad enough and the flooding is bad enough. That's just the ideology I partake in, that's all. Just better safe than sorry, you know. That's all there is to it. I know some people might be reluctant to leave their house or their possessions, but I'd rather lose some of that than lose my life, that's all. You're listening to VORW, the voice of the report of the week. I'm going to do a little time check, see how long I've been recording for. Okay, 37 minutes. Almost 38. Well, coming up next, that covers the topic of hurricanes, that's all I wanted to say. I guess coming up next, we're going to talk about YouTube a little bit. And then we'll see where else. Yes, the radio broadcast afterwards, so stay tuned. And, well, that's it. Well, it's another day. Midday, I guess you could say. So I understand that there's a bit more ambient noise in the background, but from what I've heard last, it's still completely manageable. And as I said, and I know this as a fact now from what I've had in the last VORW, this microphone is will pick up my voice fine, and the background noise would be a non-issue, really. I mean, you might hear it, but it's not a major detraction whatsoever. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about next, because we discussed the hurricanes and all that, there were two other issues that I wanted to discuss. One about YouTube and one about the shortwave. I guess the reason why I kind of took such a break from talking about this is I really don't know how to phrase it. And I mean, you know there's an issue when you have to be very conscious and nervous about saying something right, for fear of any sort of repercussion otherwise when it comes to an issue like this. Because I don't mean to criticize, and I understand that with any new system and the implementation thereof, there always comes trial and error and some issues in the system, and I could understand that, but you would hope usually in time those issues get worked out, right? You know, you get a new program gets released, and then sometimes there's issues with it, and you work through it, and eventually those issues get notified and worked on, and oftentimes they're eventually solved. And I'm trying to stay positive, and I'm hoping that's the case here as well. This site that I upload videos on had recently issued a new system in regards to the monetization of content and really screening thereof. So, of course, you remember a few months ago with the adpocalypse, right? Where the ad rates just plummeted because there was a boycott. And I could understand that. There were some advertisers that didn't want to have their content shown on certain videos, and YouTube decided to do something about it. So after many months, they released a new system to screen the videos and determine which ones are eligible for monetization and which ones aren't. And as I alluded to earlier, there's some issues with the system. And if you look it up, nowadays they made a thing where you can check the videos and you can see which ones are being monetized and which ones aren't. And lots of people are saying that there are many false readings of the system, that videos are being flagged like crazy, and many people are getting demonetized for no reason. And you could appeal it, and it could get approved for monetization or denied. And people are saying sometimes that happens, sometimes it's never reviewed. Some people have hundreds of their videos flagged for no reason, etc., etc. And I've talked about this before. For me, I treat YouTube as a job. And what really comes in my revenue, the Patreon usually just goes to the channel. Any PayPal donations usually go to the channel or to radio broadcasts, to those bills. So what's left for me really is whatever I get for the monetization. That's my salary, you can say. That money I would therefore use to either save up into savings, start saving for rent, pay bills, save it for the taxes, food, etc. Of course, you see that as your salary. So whenever there's cuts to that, that's really what hits home, The radio broadcast, it's sad, but if the PayPal donations didn't come in for that, you cut the broadcasts and life moves on. When the YouTube revenue really starts going down, think of it like your job, right? Your job, you get a paycheck, you get paid. Imagine if suddenly, for really no reason whatsoever, they cut your pay by, 30 to 65%. Then you'll really start noticing the implications of that day to day. No reason given, that's it. And from every week thereafter, you only get that. You would notice a difference. Big time, of course. Well, I don't want to say YouTube's killing me, but they're causing problems, that's for sure. I guess the channel didn't get hit as hard as some other channels, but the biggest issue has been new videos. The old videos that have been sitting there, 800 videos or so, left monetized, but they're not getting any views, so it doesn't really matter in the financial way of things, one way or another. What always brings in revenue for the channel is the new videos. You upload a new video, you get the ads on it, and then in that first period of 24 hours or so, maybe 100,000, 160,000 people will see those ads in that first 24-hour period, And that's what earns the channel money. It's not really the videos from 2014 that have been sitting there for years that get 20 views a month. It's the new videos. But for the last week, every single new video I have uploaded, the Burger King, which is at the, the Cheesy Tots, the Starbucks Ice Water video, the Burger King Rodeo King, and probably this VORW too, have all been completely demonetized for being not advertiser friendly. And as I mentioned, the importance of having that first 24-hour period where about probably 75-80% of the views come in, that's when having the video monetized is incredibly important. And the last 3 videos now, I've missed out on that every single time. You appeal it, takes 24 hours for that to go through, then you get it monetized. And by the time that happens, the video's already slowed down in terms of growth, and it really hurts it. And that's been going on with every single upload so far. They don't tell you what you're doing wrong. I wish I knew. And then they review it, they say, oh no, there's nothing wrong with it. They approve it, and by then you missed out on almost 200,000 views that you could have monetized on, and it's it's really taken a toll, I'm not asking, but merely offering a suggestion. Considering the state of things, if you do want to help out this channel, as I mentioned, the importance of the YouTube revenue, please consider your support via Patreon, also via PayPal. If you also want to help out the channel, purchasing any sort of merchandise on the Teespring store is fine as well. Feels shameful to have to say it like that, but given the current state of things, I hope you could understand. And in the next VORW, which will probably come in a few weeks, I'll provide you with an update, and I hope that this system gets worked out soon. But if this is a new long-term trend, and every single video I upload is now going to be going to have this issue at the beginning, and really is not going to garner anything significant in terms of profit anymore, I'm thinking of perhaps changing things up and maybe moving to or not moving, but also adding Twitch, maybe start doing live streams also, and start putting an emphasis on that. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let this stop me, but I just wanted to let you all know that this is really having a significant effect on me, and I really wish I would know why this was happening and what I was doing wrong, but until then I simply have to infer, and just hope for the best. But please keep in mind what I mentioned and the effects thereof, and that's really all that I want to say in that regard. But just know, I know a lot of people are talking about it, and it's having an effect. It is, and I don't mean to put them in any sort of negative light here. I understand that things can have their issues, but I just hope it gets fixed soon. That's all that I'm saying. Let me check the time here. Okay, we still are recording. Well, anyway, to continue on to other topics, the VORW broadcasts on Shortwave do continue, though there is a schedule change to inform you all about. Unfortunately, I mentioned the impact that the cut with YouTube was having, and you gotta make sacrifices sometimes, so that I did. I have eliminated one broadcast. It was just, it cost too much a week, and it wasn't really, I don't want to say you weren't getting what you paid for, but there certainly weren't any returns from it to justify keeping it on the air, but I'll get to that in a second. VORW, of course, is a YouTube podcast, but it also is a weekly radio program as well. It is transmitted every Thursday and every Sunday. Thursday show is repeated each Sunday, I should say. It is 1 hour in length. The first 10 to 20 minutes I'll discuss topics that I feel more comfortable discussing on the air rather than here. And then I'll continue on and play about 40 to 50 minutes of listener-requested music of all genres, eras, time periods, you name it. And in between then I'll kind of talk about the songs a little bit, DJ a bit, and give some listener shout-outs as well. And it's a fun show. It's a great place to really get to know the community, get to know me as well, and hear some good music at the same time. With that being said, the VORW radio show can be heard on TuneIn Radio on your phone via the TuneIn Radio app, on SoundCloud, which is still chugging along on life support, but I'm kind of just updating it still a little bit. And then, of course, on Shortwave. I would recommend listening on Shortwave. I mentioned that it is, in my opinion, wise to have a shortwave radio, and one added benefit, of course, of having a radio is being able to listen to the VORW radio show. If you're located in North America, South America, Europe, the Middle East, and also parts of Central and South Asia, you will be able to hear these radio broadcasts. You could obtain a shortwave radio to listen to these programs on, really at an affordable price. You could purchase a shortwave radio at $20. There are some good models I would recommend. The Texan PL380 is a good one. The Texan PL660 is another good one. And there are many other good models. I might list a couple in the description or in the comments as well. Here is the broadcast schedule if you do want to listen to the shows on shortwave, all times Eastern. Every Thursday at the time of 6 a.m. Eastern, you can tune to the frequency of 5850 kilohertz, that's 5850 kilohertz, for a broadcast to Western North America. I know it's in the middle of the night, but for any night owls, if you want to get some VORW programming, you can tune to that frequency there. It is audible best for anyone west of the Mississippi River. At the time of 4 p.m. Eastern every Thursday on 11580 kilohertz, that's 11580 kilohertz. You can tune to that frequency on shortwave, especially if you are on the east coast of the U.S. Anywhere from Georgia to Maine, east coast, where the signal would be best. Our next shortwave broadcast comes at the time of 6 p.m. Eastern every Thursday on a frequency of 9955 kilohertz, that's 9955 kilohertz. It is broadcast to the Caribbean and South America. That's where the signal would be best there. The broadcast is also audible via TuneIn Radio. I'm going to have a link to some of those streams in the comments and in the description, but you could also listen to a live digital stream on TuneIn at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's one way you could listen on your computer or on your phone right there. At the time of 8 p.m. Eastern every Thursday, you can tune to the frequency of 7490 kilohertz, targeting Eastern North America, 9395 kilohertz, targeting Eastern North America, 9455 kilohertz, targeting the Gulf of Mexico, and 7730 kilohertz, targeting the Western North America, with a added emphasis on California. So there is also a corresponding tune-in radio stream as well, so you could listen on your computer or on shortwave throughout North America at that time. There is also a new transmission courtesy of WRMI. Really thankful for them to do this. At the time of 4 p.m. Eastern every Friday, so 24 hours later, on 11580 kilohertz, there's a new transmission, repeat of the Thursday show on 11580, 4 p.m. Eastern, targeting the east coast of the U.S. And then there are some broadcasts every Sunday to Europe and the Middle East, though also audible throughout South and Southeast Asia, 9400 kilohertz at 12 p.m. Eastern. Our flagship service to Europe, originating from Bulgaria, 150 kilowatts of power, being broadcast on 9400 kilohertz to any and all listeners throughout the European continent. Special emphasis on the UK. Also, however, again, listeners through the Middle East, North Africa, Russia, South and Southeast Asia can also pick up the broadcast. 9400 kilohertz, 9400, 12 o'clock Eastern, that's 12 noon. So any listeners in that part of the world, that's where you can listen then. Finally, our last broadcast is at 4 p.m. Eastern every Sunday on a frequency of 9395 kilohertz, targeting the Eastern North America region. From late May up until last Sunday, there was a broadcast at 6 p.m. Eastern on 7490, and that also had a tune-in stream. And I had to cut it. It's no more. It's over. It's done. But that broadcast is formally discontinued. The reason why I discontinued that transmission, it wasn't even an issue of listenership. There were listeners, not a huge amount, but every week I would get, maybe for that broadcast, anywhere between 2 and 4 emails, which may not be a significant amount, but likely, when you look at the logistics of things, usually 1 or 2 emails is usually significant for every couple of hundred people listening, so there's definitely a number of listeners to that broadcast. There was always some correspondence every single week. People listening on shortwave as well as the online stream. But the broadcast just cost too much, and I was willing to pay it out of pocket for another month, but then the whole YouTube thing happened with the cuts to the ad revenue, and suddenly I had to stop, wondering if I should start putting this money that I'm getting from YouTube, which is now diminishing rapidly, towards these broadcasts, or if I should really focus on just using it for more important things, perhaps. So I made a big announcement in the last broadcast, mentioning the state of things for that transmission, and essentially saying it's going to go off the air next week, but if you want to help keep it on the air, you could do so. You could donate to PayPal, keep it going. But the amount of money that we got on PayPal was completely marginal, so I couldn't afford to be able to keep it going even another week, so that's that for that. And, even if you're in that area, Eastern North America, that's now going to be missed out for that broadcast, there's plenty of other shortwave transmissions that do target that same exact area of the globe. It's not the end of the world, a bit of a disappointment on the part of YouTube, you could say, but it is what it is. And who knows, if things bounce back and rebound and that airtime slot is still open and things get better revenue-wise in the future, then perhaps we can reinstate things in that regard. So that's where things stand there. Again, there's many broadcasts on shortwave targeting North America, South America, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. And if you are interested in listening to any of those broadcasts, you heard the times and the frequencies. If you're interested in listening on a shortwave radio, please contact me. I also have a little file that I've added in the description, perhaps, and maybe even comments that details other ways you can listen to these broadcasts. With that, I figure we'll just get to the letters now. You're listening to VORW, the voice of the Report of the Week. Alright, well, here we are, the fan mail segment, and I've just been a bit pensive today, quite frankly, just because, with the whole issue with YouTube going on, I mean, really, how can't you be? You gotta sit there, you gotta think about it, you gotta help but wonder, because, you know, they don't tell you what you did wrong, so you have to wonder, well, what did I do wrong? Did I do anything wrong? Why me? Why are they doing this to me? You know, you have a lot of questions and really no answers, and you got to think about the future, possible solutions, etc. So I've just been a bit pensive today, but I want to record this and get this up as soon as I possibly can, because I find it something quite important to talk about in many ways, not just about the YouTube thing, but also about the hurricane, the shortwave, and I think it is also more than enough time to get a VORW up to YouTube. So first and foremost, if you have anything you'd like to contribute, any questions, comments, feedback, statements, etc., they are always welcome at repweekinterview1@gmail.com. That's repweekinterview1, the number 1, @gmail.com. And you can send them there, and then there's a good chance that they'll be read and responded to in the next VORW program. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, however, that there is an established quota of letters to read in each show, so I can't guarantee everyone's letter will be read. So please write in with the assumption that your letter won't be read, so in the event that it isn't read, there won't be any sort of, you could say, anger or shock that comes of it. So number 1, keep that in mind, please. And number 2, of course, I reserve the right to screen any letters beforehand, as in the past some individuals have tried to send, you know, coded subliminal messages with hidden, masked insults, and I really don't want to read any of that on the air, truth be told. But feel free to write in. Again, if you have any questions, comments, general feedback, etc., you can write to me, repweekinterview1@gmail.com. Also, I have a question for all of you. This is a legitimate question, and any answers are, again, welcome via email or in the comments too. Or you could email me, of course, repweekinterview1@gmail.com. I have a question for all of you listening right now. In the wake of the recent cut to my radio broadcasts, I pose a question to all of you. Have you listened to the VORW Radio International broadcasts in the past? And if so, by what means did you listen? So have you listened to the VORW radio broadcasts in the past? And if so, how did you listen? Did you listen via shortwave? Did you listen via TuneIn? Did you listen via SoundCloud? Or did you listen via another means? And it's important. I really want to start establishing any sorts of statistics and ideas here, just because I'll be quite honest, I have to act as if these YouTube issues are going to continue in the foreseeable future, and I want to know, in terms of these broadcasts, really who's listening, how many people are listening, and by what means they're tuning in, really. So it'd be important if you do let me know in terms of that, and it'd be a big favor to ask, that's all. Anyway, I have a bunch of letters to read that we got in from the last week, or last few weeks, I should say. And we'll read them here. I'll be reading about 20 to 30 letters in this show. And here we go. We'll start off with a letter from Matt. Hello. First, let me congratulate you on reaching your 150th VORW show. It's clear to see that it has required a significant amount of both time and work to get it to this point, and for that, congratulations. With the pleasantries aside, I am admittedly new to the VORW series. However, I have been a long-time viewer of your Running an Empty Food Review series, and have nearly watched all of them at this point. However, upon following the VORW series, I feel it is quickly growing to be my favorite of your channel skews. I particularly enjoy watching it whilst in my office, as I find it more engaging than simply listening to music. Your mindset and approach to both the VORW and Running an Empty Review series has inspired me to come out of the digital shell, quote-unquote, and start a channel of my own reviewing various teas. To this point, I have two questions I'd like to put forth to you. The first being, do you invest? And secondly, as I am residing in Canada, the main donut chain here is Tim Hortons. Besides just donuts and pastries, they also make wraps and sandwiches. I can only assume American competitor chains such as Dunkin' Donuts do the same. Have you ever considered reviewing their non-donut items? Thanks again for the quality content as usual, and I'm looking forward to hearing any future content you produce. Warm regards, Matt. Well, thank you, Matt. And yes, indeed, it is the 150th VORW show. I wish I could be celebrating it under better terms, but, sorry. No matter what, we'll get through this, and, we'll figure something out going forward. So thank you for your kind words and your feedback, and it's great to hear, number one, that these videos of mine actually helped you, you know, kind of move forward and kind of get out there as a content creator of your own, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. I don't invest at the moment, and that's mostly just because I really don't have much to invest with. Of course, if I, you know, if say I won the lottery, right, and I suddenly amassed a great fortune of money, I would invest, and hopefully put forth some money there. But I just don't have that kind of money to play around with right now, so I don't. You mentioned in terms of the donut shops, it is an interesting question that you bring up, because you are right. And this goes for a lot of places, as a matter of fact, where you have, you know, these establishments that serve one thing primarily. So say, you know, Tim Hortons, Dunkin' Donuts, etc. focus on donuts and pastries, but they also have some other things as well. I haven't necessarily reviewed them, but I have tried them. I've had some of the bagels from Dunkin' Donuts in the past, and they're pretty good. Actually, probably better than the donuts now. I like the everything bagel with butter from Dunkin' Donuts. And I've seen that in other places where there's some establishments that may specialize on one type of food, but their alternative items are actually just as good as the food itself. I mean, I remember with Del Taco, right? Of course, the name implies, and it correctly is, a taco chain. You know, it's just Mexican food. But they have burgers, too. They have, like, what they call an American grill. And, you know, I wasn't sure at first. Because, of course, when they specialize on one type of food, you know, you might think, well, about these burgers, I mean, how good are they going to be? But I tried them one day. And my goodness, they were great. They were delicious. Now, that was a positive example of that. There's been other times where I've tried food that a place doesn't necessarily specialize in, and it's disgusting. Reminds me of a time when I went to Starbucks, and I love their drinks. I mean, their coffee is top-notch. Their ice water is delicious. So drink-wise, Starbucks is the place to be. You know, they're just great. You know, it's awesome. But then food-wise, because they specialize in drinks, and the drinks are good, they released some sort of, pardon me on the specifics here, I believe it was like a brisket sandwich or something. I'm sitting here at the computer right now, I can try and find it for you. Let me try here. Starbucks. I'm looking right now. I'm just genuinely curious myself. Yeah, it was the Starbucks barbecue beef brisket on sourdough. And again, you're taking a bit of a leap of faith here, because you have the coffee from this establishment, right? How is the food? Well, I tried it, and it wasn't good. You know, the quality of the brisket was awful. It looked like it was, you know, like cat food or something. It was disgusting. And the bread wasn't very good either, and it tasted awful. The drinks are absolutely excellent, you know, 9-point-something out of 10 rating. That brisket was bad. some rain's falling outside. I don't know if you could hear it. I'm sitting out here in the rain, and it's kind of refreshing, so it's not bad. If there's any thunder, I'll stop, but, you know, so that was an issue there where it was rather bad. And that's an issue. So it really varies from place to place, I understand now. You know, there's some places that have one specialty, yet other items can be quite good, and there's some places that have one specialty and the other items are just quite bad. So it really does vary from place to place. Alright. Let's just make sure that we are recording still. I understand that we are, but let's just make sure, right? Okay. Our next email, Dear the Report of the Week. I'm a casual fan of your review channel, and in your 2017 average day video, you mentioned what your email is, so I don't mind. So I hope you don't mind that I built up the courage to send you a nice fan mail. I only had 2 questions, really. First, I wonder how you came to the decision of starting a food review channel. And secondly, and I admit this is a slightly more personal and advice-based question, I noticed since your regular hours of activity are quite late, you must have a lot of time to yourself. Oh, I see. So this question is mostly just asking, how do you deal with time alone? Anyway, the question continues to close off. I want to say that it's wonderful to me and many others to see someone like you who lives life as they feel most comfortable. You must face quite a bit of judgment for being an old soul, but I think it really is refreshing to see that there is someone like you who is unique and polite. Thank you for reading this. P.S. I don't know if they exist in America as I live in Canada, but if you ever come across a fast food chain called Burrito Boys, and that's B-O-Y-Z, I highly recommend it. A small burrito is a very filling but good lunch item. Thank you for your email. Well, to answer your question, first and foremost, when I came to make it a food review channel, really, I mean, nowadays, I don't know if I would consider the channel a full-blown food review channel anymore. Now it's just kind of a miscellaneous channel where I'm going to do food reviews, but I'm also going to do miscellaneous videos too. You know, I'm just going to spend some days where I'm just going to talk about whatever. And I can make a video talking about anything, really. And I enjoy doing those random videos a lot, so I'm going to be putting an added focus onto that. And those seem to be doing better in terms of how YouTube handles them, though let's not get ahead of ourselves now. So who's to say, really, but I really have a lot of fun doing these random videos. I mean, they're so much fun to do, and to just kind of set up the camera, talk a bit, and it's a real fun time there, so it's not totally a food review channel anymore, but how I came to start doing the food reviews, I started doing the energy drink reviews. You know, that's how the channel started. It started back in 2011 as energy drinks. And I really put a heavy emphasis on energy drinks completely up until maybe 2013. I started doing the food reviews back in 2012, but that was kind of on and off stuff. But I really started sticking with the food when I realized, in terms of expanding the channel, not everyone drinks energy drinks. Right? Maybe you don't drink energy drinks. I don't even drink them that much anymore. I'm now a coffee consumer. Everyone's got to eat, right? 3 meals a day. 2 meals, maybe even 1 meal a day. But in Europe, North America, for the most part, even in other parts of the world too, fast food is everywhere. You know? You see it, I see it. It's literally everywhere. You go down the street, you see McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. You see a billboard for one, a radio advertisement for one, online ads, TV commercials. So I mean, it's everywhere. Fast food is everywhere. new releases, new promotions, new chains, new restaurants. And because of that, it has a much higher applicability than energy drinks. You don't see everyone, drinking a Monster. You see nearly everyone eating a McDonald's burger every now and then, though. Has higher applicability, though the energy drinks can be pretty fun to review still, too. And another thing about the fast food is really the fact that, well, I like it. I'll be honest, I enjoy fast food, too. I enjoy pizza and burgers and chicken wings, and I like eating that kind of stuff. Might be terrible for me, I understand that, and I understand the risks, but I like eating it, and it's enjoyable for me to do as well. So that's really how it, became a fast food channel, and it kind of just stuck after that. And that's really how that came to be. You also, and someone asked a question similar to this, maybe it wasn't the last VORW, perhaps the one before that, where they kind of mentioned about time and solitude. So I'll give the same advice. I think the best way, now unless you're very introverted, then you can kind of see time, to yourself, or just kind of not in society. You see that as just where you're comfortable. For most people, though, see it as like as I was saying, see it as a much-needed break, Look at how hectic day-to-day life is, how busy it is, how stressful it can be, how tired it can make you feel at the end of it all, just what a madhouse it can be so often. And see that time to yourself as just a much-needed break, a time where you can just kind of breathe out slowly and say, you know what, now I can finally relax. I can just use this time to just kind of daydream, listen to some good music, just rest my mind, rest my body, whatever. And just use this time as just rest time. That's a good way, I think, for anyone, even if you're not really that introverted, to see time alone. See it as a much-needed break. And I always see that seems to work out pretty well there. So thank you for your email. A short letter from Tim. Hello, my name is Tim from Orange County in upstate New York. I'm a new subscriber. I find your delivery style mature and welcoming. I did watch a few of your older videos and can say your presentation has improved. Thank you for taking the time to provide all content you post, long form or short form, and keep it up. All the best from Tim. Thank you, Tim, for your kind words, short and sweet but very nice, so thank you so much for that. And I may not always always notice that if there was any sort of improvement in time, but I guess there has been. So thank you again for your kind remarks there. Short question. Hello, my name is Coral, and I was wondering when you started to wear suits, and have you always worn suits? I did a video about that recently that answers those questions, why I wear suits all the time. But to answer your question, very short, because I went on in a whole video, and I recommend you check it out if you haven't already. I started to wear suits about 10 years ago, when I was young, though I didn't really amass the courage to start wearing them all the time until about a couple years ago. And well, that's really the answer to the question there. I really do talk about that in detail a lot more in a video that I made titled Why I Wear Suits All the Time, and I highly recommend that you watch it. It's 23 minutes long, but it really covers all the answers to your questions there in great detail, and even provides a few examples, so I highly recommend it. It's a must-watch for that question, in my opinion. Hi, John. I'm sorry if this isn't the most formal. I'm not quite used to writing and emailing. First of all, I hope you're having a great night, I really don't know how to start this off, but your video about why you wear suits every day really made me feel better about myself and the clothing I choose to wear. I don't wear suits, and I definitely don't dress as nice as you, but it still made me feel better. I know it may seem odd that someone with green hair and piercings watches your videos and enjoys them, but I really do. Your content is great, and I hope you continue to make it for years to come. I'm not going to lie, I did come for the meme at the beginning, but I didn't like how the trolls were treating you, and I ended up actually really enjoying the videos, so I stayed. Anyway, I don't want to bore you and keep talking nonsense. I hope you read this, and if you don't, it's perfectly fine. Have a good day from Autumn. Thank you very much, Autumn, for your letter there. And, it doesn't really seem odd at all that, someone with, any sorts of piercings or green hair or anything like that watches the videos. As I always advocate, and I've said this before, and I don't know how much the message gets out, but I always advocate individuality, and just dress however you'd like to dress, and color your hair however you'd like to color it, style it as you see it fit, and it might seem quite odd that, quite a difference, I should say, between someone who might have a different color hair and piercings and me with my suits, but really, in a way, it's rather quite similar. I'm choosing to simply present myself with suits every day and older style, slicked back hair, and you're just choosing to, have piercings and green hair, and that's perfectly fine. You could wear anything that you like to wear, really. That's what I always advocate. I say that every VORW, and that's something that I always want to drive home in every video there. So, thank you for your kind words there, and you're not the only person, really, that's came to the channel from a meme. I've noticed that happening in the past, and you have some people that come from the meme and kind of have their laughs and then forget about it, but you also have people that arrive at the channel from a meme, and then they find themselves really liking the content, and they become some of the best viewers out there. So there's nothing against that, and it's great to have you here. Welcome to the Report of the Week. I hope you enjoy your stay here, as you could say. Alright, let's see what else we have. Hello from Canada, lots of Canadian listeners. I began watching regularly just recently. I've known about your channel for approximately 4 years, but haven't been a regular viewer until recently. I eventually found myself listening to several of your VORW podcasts while staying up late into the night. I find your content and commentary to be a breath of fresh air in the midst of a lot of narcissistic, sheepish, and annoying content creators out there. Meanwhile, you remain calm, humble, classy, and polite, and I also know that the odds of hearing some obnoxious, memey buzzwords such as lit or savage from you is very unlikely, so that's a plus as well. Anyway, on to my questions. Number 1, do you eat fruit? And if so, what is your favorite? Personally, I love raspberries. Also, have you considered doing reviews on fruit? For example, a review dedicated to raspberries. With your commentary might be quite interesting. I'm sure such videos would be applicable to quite a large audience due to the obvious popularity of fruit. Also, are you much of a cook? If you're not eating fast food, do you prepare your own meals very often? And if so, what are they? And do you try new recipes every now and then? That's all for now. Hopefully I get the chance to hear you read and respond on the next VORW. I'll be listening regardless, from Jordan. Thank you, Jordan. First and foremost, thank you for your kind words. I'm happy that you enjoy the channel. And secondly, do I eat fruit? Well, I've actually been increasing my fruit intake as of late, if you'll believe that. I know I'm starting to put more of an emphasis on some healthy options in terms of diet, and fruit is one of them. And I'll eat mixed types of fruit, so I'll vary it up, not specifically just one type here and there. But I've definitely been increasing that there. And secondly, I'm not much of a cook. You know, I don't have too much culinary talent, I guess you could say. But I can cook a few things here and there. I can maybe cook some frozen pizzas, or maybe some small recipes, but I'm by no means a culinary master chef, as they say. So I'm more reliant on cooked food, but I know. You never know, I could learn a few recipes here and there, and that's entirely possible, so who's to say with that? Thank you for your questions. It's great to hear from you. Carl sends a very short response. Do you own any suspenders, sir? No, I don't. That's the honest answer. I don't own any suspenders. I simply wear a belt. Maybe one day I might wear some suspenders, so that's one of those articles of clothing similar to the bow tie, where I enjoy wearing them in a very traditional manner. You know, the bow tie, I would either wear one, you know, like a three-piece suit, kind of like an old-school professor, or I would wear one with an imperial collar standing straight up, as they did in the early 1900s. Not really in its modern context. You know, I'm not going to be rocking a kitten print bow tie. I should say a psychedelic kitten print bow tie anytime soon. And same thing with suspenders, you know. If it's in a very traditional style, I might wear them, but not at the moment. But I'm not going to discount it going forward by any means, you know. It's certainly entirely possible, you know, looking forward. Dear Review Bra, I just wanted to say thank you. You provide the most in-depth, descriptive, well-thought-out, and calming food reviews anywhere on the internet. I watch your channel whenever I feel down or anxious, or just have a good time in general. You seem very polite and a rational person, and I was wondering if you would ever think of doing some kind of weekly current events videos, just like an unbiased review of what's been happening. I feel as though you would deliver this perfectly and deliver an unbiased, fair, and interesting viewpoint. All for now. Sincerely from Michael. Thank you, Michael. Well, I like the idea, but unfortunately, there's no, you're not allowed to discuss current events on YouTube without, the possibility of demonetization, so, that doesn't seem really possible. The one avenue, and this is why I suggest listening to that radio show so often. Shortwave Radio doesn't have any sort of censorship, you know? It's the epitome. I mean, the literal epitome of free speech still. Shortwave Radio. That's why I recommend you get one, you listen to the show. That's the place where I could still do it if I wanted to. Do a roundup of current events and all of that at the beginning of the radio broadcasts. Because there's no one that's going to try and stop you there. So if I were to ever pursue that opportunity, it would be on air, not on YouTube. Let's see what else we have. Hey John, I just wanted to say hi, and that 149 was another gem. The podcasts just keep getting better and better. And it's just awesome to see how the channel just keeps growing. I hope the new merchandise is going well for you. It's only a matter of time before I pick something up. I'm sure after all these years you can easily guess that I'll choose a VORW shirt for sure. On that note, I just wanted to ask if you have anything special lined up to mark the upcoming 150 milestone. Can't wait to hear it, and by the way, the new random video on your suits is simply epic. Got me in the mood for some idle minds. Stay safe, my friend. Old pal Brax. Thank you for your letter there. And if you do get the merchandise, I hope you enjoy it. And for anyone else interested in the merchandise, keep that in mind, of course, with the demonetization going on right now. It is a way to directly support the channel if you don't want to do anything with the Patreon or anything like that. I know I don't like plugging it, but this is all I have left at this point, and, you know, I hope you could, again, understand the justification thereof. But, well, if there's anything special planned, what I'm thinking of doing, there's a shortwave, and I don't know if this is going to go through or not, I don't know yet. But there's a shortwave relay station in around the New Jersey area that the guy, he's a fan of my channel. He has a transmitter on 5200 kilohertz, and I could probably get him to broadcast this VORW show on shortwave for free to, you know, just as a little celebratory thing, and it would kind of be heard in just, you know, the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut metro area, but still, you know, could potentially reach a very large audience, and it could just be a fun little thing to do. But I might contact him and work something out with that. I don't know if that would ever go through, but that's just an idea of something to do. So again, who knows if that would be for certain, but just an idea. Alright, we're continuing here with our fan mail. I did take a little break. Hope you understand. Because I was just recording, and again, it was just getting to me too much, and I needed to just kind of think it out. And now I'm in a real recording mood. I'm going to get the rest of this show done, finished, and uploaded. And that's how we're gonna take this. Now, that being said, there are a few interjections I wanted to put forth. Number one, bear in mind the question I do have for all of you. Do you listen to the VORW radio show? If so, how? So I can know where to divert resources, because I assume the YouTube cuts will have no end. Now, anyway, with that out of the, I don't know, the metaphorical shortwave radio cat out of the bag, we'll just get back to things. How does that sound? Anyway, so let's read some letters. Let's keep reading some letters, I should say. As long as we're recording here. Let me check. Alright, hey Review Bra. Just wondering, have you considered getting your hair done in one of those classic 1930s Jimmy Darmody slick back faded undercuts with lots of pomade? Something to ponder. I do like the classic 20s part and length you've got going on, though. I love the channel. Keep doing you. Well, thank you. Number one, thank you for your suggestion. I'm looking at the picture right now. I see what you mean with the slicked back undercut, but I don't really intend to pursue that that hairstyle at all. Number one, I've just never been a fan of that. I prefer to keep some length to my hair, and also the contemporary association with the slicked back undercut hairstyle is not that good at all, to say the very least. So I'm just going to keep my hair simply as it is for the foreseeable future, maybe even the indefinite future, who knows, where I keep it layered, fairly short to medium length on the sides and back, and then long on the top, slicked back, with a part almost in the center. Not quite, but a very, very high side part. And some people have wondered about the part in my hair, because if you notice, compared to some contemporary hairstyles, the part that I use is usually a lot higher, similar to more like how it was in the early 1900s, and that's simply the style that I like. You know, a lot of people have said, you know, have a part lower, but I just prefer a higher part in my hair. You know, that's just how I like it. and by now I've combed it so many times, that's just where it always naturally falls anyway, but I always like a higher part there. It's just what I've always preferred, and that's just the style that I go with. And I figure I'll keep it that way, but thank you for the suggestion. Dear John, I'm glad you got to reading my email in the last podcast. I have 2 questions for you today. Would you consider opening a P.O. box in the future? I think getting all sorts of letters from around the globe might be interesting. I got this idea after reading some of H.P. Lovecraft's letters, and I think it is a great old-school way of correspondence. My second question is kind of a broad one, but have you ever considered doing some sort of live show, streaming on the internet, or even being on air in AM/FM radio show? Your ability to talk uninterrupted and your one-take way of shooting your videos provides you amazing skills needed for doing live shows. Okay, live show, not life show. Okay, just a typo there. Anyway, I feel like I need to thank you again for such a great job you are doing on the channel and radio program. Truly an inspiration for me, and I wish you the best. Kind regards, Tom in the Czech Republic. Thank you, Tom. And I know with the VORW radio, because you're a radio listener too, you mentioned you have a shortwave radio on the way, so if you tune in, remember the frequency, 9400 kilohertz for Europe there, and it should be quite good in the Czech Republic there. I've had listeners in Austria, Germany, and Hungary as well. All write in, and if they report such good signals, it shouldn't really be much an issue for you either. Now, in terms of live shows, originally I was a little iffy on the idea, quite frankly. But after seeing the issues with YouTube, I have decided to commit myself, and I'm going to start doing stuff on Twitch, probably. Twitch, maybe, if there's any other sites, maybe vid.me. We'll see, but that's definitely... it's going to happen now, guaranteed. I'm going to simply, because I always film everything in one take to begin with, so I already film the videos as though they are live, so transitioning to that is not an issue whatsoever. I simply need to learn the technology, equip myself with a good webcam, figure out how it's done, and then from there, we're good to go. But definitely going to start, transitioning into some live streaming. I've determined with the current situation and where it stands, I've decided that's what I'm going to do. On the topic of AM/FM radio, I don't think that's a road that I'm going to be taking anytime soon. And it might strike you as odd. You think, oh, I'm doing all the radio stuff. Wouldn't AM/FM be a perfect avenue? But it's a money pit. I mean, it is at this point in time, it is a complete and total money pit. For the amount of money, I mean, if I'm having trouble with the radio bills for shortwave, AM and FM, just for a couple hours, is everything that I have in my bank account, and that's it. And I don't even think the listenership would be much higher. AM/FM radio, that's of course if I buy brokered. Lots more regulations. The FCC watches that like a hawk. The listenership, especially for AM, is a little higher than shortwave, but in some cases, depending on the station, not by much. If it's just a 1 kilowatt AM station, you're not going to be reaching much. If it's a 50 kilowatt AM station, you can expect to pay you know what loads of money here in the States. And FM, I mean, there's just so much more competition too. The reason why I love shortwave radio is, again, there's still an audience out there. When you're factoring in a station that can cover the entire country, 300 million people, and the amount of shortwave receivers that are there. Now, I can't guarantee people tuned in, but I'd say there's probably, if I had to offer a guess, I mean, there's probably maybe around, definitely there's definitely millions of shortwave radios still in the United States. The number of listeners in the U.S. total is still probably in the, definitely hundreds of thousands, possibly. Again, factoring in the, maybe around a million, who's to say? I can't name anything for specifics. Of course, in other countries it's much higher, I would imagine, from what I've heard. In Mexico, for instance, parts of the Caribbean, a lot higher. So there's definitely listeners out there. There still are. I know that for a fact. The amount of stations that broadcast programming similar to my own show is extremely, extremely limited. So already I have very, very little, if any, competition on shortwave. There's just so many reasons why I would prefer that to AM and FM. And also, even though I'm having trouble with it, given the financial situation, it's cheap compared to what you pay for AM, FM. That's just the situation of it all. Let's see what else. Hi, Mr. Review Bra. I hope you're having a good day so far. I just finished listening to the 149th VORW show. I had a question that was similar to the last one you answered. I'm a fairly new fan. I've probably been subscribed for a month, but I've really tried to watch as many of your videos as I had time for. I'd like to say before I ask, I hope you haven't answered, I haven't been asked about this before, and if you have, I'm sorry for missing your answer. My question was, would you ever consider hosting a meetup for fans if you made a nice milestone like 500,000 subscribers or even 1 million? You were definitely close to achieving both of these, but I understand why you would not want to consider, considering a lot of people that view your videos are trolls and such, but I think you also have many loving fans that would truly appreciate meeting you in person, because you really seem like a wonderful human being. It's definitely an understatement when people say you help them with their lives. As a simple reviewer, you have a genuine, calming personality, demeanor, so even your videos about your daily routines are a joy. I'm sure people would even pay to meet you if that would help or encourage you to consider it, but if it seems like something too outrageous or out of your comfort zone, I definitely understand. Thanks for reading from Maddie. Well, thank you, Maddie, for your question there. To answer your question about a meetup, I've thought about it from time to time. I don't know. I'm a very introverted person. Very introverted. And I always have a lot of worries. Every time I go outside, I always get kind of worried, and always trying to make sure the coast is clear first. But if I'm having a good day and the day is right, who knows? I haven't a crystal ball and cannot predict the future or what's to come, so I can't really give you a formal answer there. No definitive yes or no answer for that. But thank you for bringing it up. I haven't had that question asked in a while, I don't think. I'm sure I've had it asked before, but I don't think I've ever had it, or I haven't had it asked in a little bit at least, at the very least. Alright, let's see what else. Let's see. I'm just going through emails. There's a lot of garbage mixed in here, honestly. You have all this crap. I'm sorry to use that word. That's a word I don't like to use that much anymore, but it's the only, I've been getting all of these weird emails lately, where these people, they send 1 to 2 word emails. It's like in the subject, and then in the text. And it's so weird, it's like, where someone will send me an email and the subject is "Hey," and that's it, and it doesn't fall in the spam folder, and it's really weird. And then there's this one someone sent. It's kind of creepy, honestly. I deleted it immediately. I couldn't stand looking at it, where it was like this pair of eyes looking at you, and it was so weird. I just blocked it, deleted it immediately. I just got rid of it. But you get all these scams, spams, MCNs, everything in between just emailing you, And, gosh, it's so, so much to sort through, so I'm just, I kind of mark down the emails that I want to read here, but even then, sometimes, you figure out, alright, what page is it on? You get so many dozens a day. You're trying to find, is it on this one? Is it on that one? Which one? Where is it? What's got, I swear, so let's find it here. Okay, here we go. Dear the Report of the Week, I subscribe to your YouTube channel and watch your videos, which I thoroughly enjoy on a regular basis. I'm interested in learning more about shortwave radio, and I was hoping you might answer some questions I have. What general advice would you give to someone who would like to dip their toes in the water and learn more about shortwave radio? I understand from a very quick Google search that shortwave radio prices vary considerably. Is there a particular type, model, brand of shortwave radio you'd recommend for a novice who isn't quite ready to fork out a huge amount of money for a fancy first radio? Many thanks for taking the time to field this question. Sincerely, Tom. Well, thank you, Tom. I'm always appreciative of anyone who wants to get a shortwave radio. I urge anyone interested to buy one. Shortwave radio is truly the last medium where there is truly no censorship unless it is completely physical. Unless you're actually going to jam a broadcast, it goes out. It goes out completely as is. If I wanted to, theoretically, I don't do this for the sake of decency, but on my radio broadcast every Thursday, I could say the F word, I could play uncensored music, I could do all that. I could say every single swear word in the book, and the stations would still play it. Still would. No repercussions. Dead serious. You have that freedom of being able to do that. The airtime is, again, compared to AM/FM, affordable. You actually hear some really neat independent programs. You hear full-blown international broadcasters as well. You get to understand world events from a perspective that you're not going to find on any media here. You'll hear interesting music and songs from all over the world, and from pirate stations too. And also, the shortwave radios come with a darn good AM/FM radio built in too, if you want to listen to local stations too. Something I recommend anyone to have. Again, I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning. Look at the absolute mess that Hurricane Harvey did, and the complete communication blackout. Radios are very, very important, and it's something that is very underappreciated because of modern technology. But when that modern technology failed or is censored, sometimes it's good to start looking back at some of the other technologies that, they can still hold their own. If you're interested in getting a shortwave radio, I, of course, would always recommend you get the Texan PL660 receiver. I have it right here, right now. TECSUN PL660 receiver. I would highly recommend it. It's $100. I understand it might be out of the price range, but it's a long-lasting receiver. It's so durable. It is incredibly durable. It uses rechargeable batteries, comes with a charger too. Very sensitive, picks up lots of stations. I would recommend that one. It's my receiver of choice. Though I understand, you might not have all that money. I get it. I would also recommend the Texan it's all from the same brand, T-E-C-S-U-N, not Texan, but Texun, like it's a Asian name, T-E-C-S-U-N, PL 380. That's another receiver I would recommend. It's very similar, but just a cheaper alternative there. And another model that I would recommend, of course, is the Texan PL 310 ET. That's PL 310-ET. Again, it's more inexpensive, but it's a good model as well. And all of those receivers are always very good. I've had listeners buy them, listen to the shortwave broadcast on them. They're what I would recommend people tune in on. The cheapest of them being around, I'd say, about $30. But still, I understand if you're in, a situation similar to mine, and you might have, you might not be able to spare a ton of cash. I get it. One radio I've been seeing reviews of, and I've started recommending people who really want to spare some funds, is this one. Alright. You can get this one for under $20. And I've had people, everything from individuals who bought this radio just to listen to the VORW shortwave broadcast on, to very experienced radio collectors, to everything in between. This radio is under $20, and I've heard, extremely good things from it. It's the Tivdio V115 AM/FM shortwave radio. That's Tivdio V-115. Tivdio V115 AM/FM shortwave radio. This one, I guarantee you, is the absolute best in its price. You're not going to get anything better here. Absolutely 100% guaranteed. For the price, again, this is the best it's going to get. I'm pretty certain about that, for under $20. I've heard good things about it. Apparently it's a good radio, a pretty decent AM/FM shortwave reception. Also comes with a, I believe some models of it. If you're going to buy this one, I recommend you do a little more research. But I've heard that it might come with, let me see here, might come with rechargeable batteries, as a matter of fact. I'm pretty sure it's rechargeable, which is what I would recommend. I believe it does. I believe it does come as a rechargeable radio. And another interesting feature is that it has a recording feature too. So say you're listening to a station, just like in the old school days, you really hear a song you like, and maybe you don't have whatever that app is, Shazam or whatever, to identify it right now. You could always just hit that record button, record it, or if you like, if you're listening to VORW and you like it so much you want to hear it again, you can record it too, straight from the radio. Has a built-in MP3 feature too. It's really neat. And again, for what it comes with, under $20, I would recommend this radio. But just seeing how things are going, it's my shtick. It's what I'm going to plug every single show, but it's what I always recommend. So anyway, with that covered now, let's get to another question here. Dear Review Brah, I don't know if you're ever going to see this, but I wanted to say thank you. I'm going through a tough time right now. Just recently moved to a new state and a new school, and it's hard to deal with all this change for me, since I was so antiquated with my previous state. But even though I'm going through these tough times, videos will always put a smile on my face. They were really helping through this time of trouble right now, and I wanted to say thank you for the videos you make. Keep them coming, please. Your fan, Isaac. Well, thank you, Isaac. Yeah, the videos are going to keep coming. No worries about that at all. You get some bumps in the road, and, you move forward. You keep going. This isn't going to kill my motivation. It's going to build frustration, of course, but it's not going to kill any sort of motivation, you know? So no worries, the videos will continue on. They will continue on, going onward and forward. Hi, Review Bra. There we go. Hi, Review Bra. Last night I watched VORW number 145, and I was really sorry to hear about Willie. Even though he wasn't your pet specifically, it was really difficult to lose a pet friend, especially in such an evil way. I sketched a little pose he stuck in his debut. He seemed like a very precious fellow, and I'm truly sorry to hear about him. Sadly, I'm also able to relate. I had a very sick pet that was being hospitalized, and this afternoon I received a call saying that he passed away due to heart attack. I've been frustrated and upset all day, but you uploaded the Taco Bell Conundrum video a little while after I found out, so thanks to that. It was really a great video, and it cheered me up some. Don't be afraid to venture out and do videos different than your typical ones. You'll always make great content, but anyway, that's a lot, so sorry. I don't write such long emails. You just seem like a guy that would be really easy to talk to. I hope you're doing well too, and have a good weekend. Thanks for reading. Well, thank you as well. And thanks for the sketch of Willie. I'm going to feature it in this review. It's a very nice one, and I think you really actually did a great job kind of capturing his face. I'm looking at it right now, and you know, as I look at his little kitten face that you drew there, yeah, he looks just like him. Thank you. It's a very nice piece. And that is his most famous pose right there, just kind of majestically lounging, you know. He came in, he just stole the show. And thank you. I'm glad you appreciate the random videos as well. I want to keep doing those. As I said earlier, I really enjoy doing them. They're a lot of fun. Quite a bit of fun. Oh, we also have another piece of fan art coming up next. Hey Review Bro, just started watching your videos and I really enjoy them. This is my first time ever writing fan mail or making fan art. I know from binge listening to your VORWs that I shouldn't expect a response, as you're a busy bee and whatnot, but I still hope you get to see it. I know that it looks like a 10-year-old painted this, but you know I always try. I try it anyway, and thank you for the great content. I have a million questions for you, but I narrowed it down to a couple. What color are your eyes? Sometimes they look blue, sometimes they look green to me. Well, my eyes are naturally blue, but perhaps it's the camera, I don't know. I know in videos I've looked, they look green sometimes, they look gray sometimes, but they're blue, naturally. Blue eyes. Sincerely, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. There's the picture. Review Bra. Huh, that's very nice. I like it, actually. I like it. It's a good piece there. Thank you. I like the little memorial to Willie there, too. Isn't that something? That's really nice. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all the work and effort that you did into that drawing, and to anyone who created fan art as well. You all know by now I have very limited artistic ability, so really the work you guys put forth to that I really do appreciate. Now anyway, and one thing that I always recommend, I don't go out much anymore, but on the occasion that I do go out in public, and anyone ever sees me in public, and I recommend, if you see me in public, feel free to approach me. Say hello, say hi. I'll be happy to, you know. Usually, if I'm out in public, I'm usually, I say it sarcastically, but I mean it. I'm a man on a mission, you know. I'm usually out to do something, and, you know, I may not be able to, you know, chat for hours, but I would, you know, say hi if I could. If you wanted a selfie or something like that, you could take a picture. I don't really do any sort of autograph thing. I don't really find that to be of any value, but if you want a picture with me or whatever, that's fine. If you really want to shake the hand, go for it. One thing that I don't recommend is I remember I would sometimes see people, and they think that they're being, and I really feel bad for the guys that think they're doing this in an inappropriate manner, because they think that they're inconspicuous, and they think that they're just, oh, it looks like I'm just on my phone, but it's really not. And other people can tell too. But I've had people trying to take literal creep shots of me, if you could believe that, where I'm just standing online for something, minding my own business. And I see some guy kind of huddled there trying to take a picture. I can see him trying to take a selfie, but just trying way too hard to get me in the shot too. And I'm just kind of looking at him, like, what's your problem, If you really want, just come over to me, say hi. I'll get you a picture in really good lighting too, But I get that sometimes, and it's kind of unnerving. I wish people would just literally come up to me and just say, are you the report of the week? And I'd say, yeah, absolutely. Would you like a picture? Sure. And then I'd take a picture. But I think some people, they might face internal debate whether it's actually me or not. So I suppose to them it's less offensive to just try and very, very obviously try and take a hidden picture of me instead, which I could very clearly see them trying to do so as well. So, if you see me, just come up to me, say hi, and if it's any pictures you want, just ask. I'll be happy to oblige. That was back in December too. Get approached every single time I went outside, and pictures and all that. I can't even imagine what it would be like now. My goodness. Oh boy. I don't want to think about it. Anyway, thank you for the fan art. And again, I appreciate all the effort. Okay. Let's see. We're burning the midnight oil. 1 a.m. 1 a.m. on the button. So I guess we're burning the 1 a.m. oil, as the old phrase goes. Oh, Nick. Oh, there you are. Hi, great to see you again. He writes, it's been quite a long time since I've written into you. No, I remember you. Yeah, you've been around since 2014. I remember that name. Yeah, good to see you here. Hope it's been well. Anyway, you continue. Sorry. I always used to write my messages via YouTube Messaging Center, but in your last VORWs you said that this has been the way to go. So here we are. It's Nick V, if you don't recognize the email, and despite my nearly year-long absence from writing, I've still been watching. Your videos still bring a great deal of joy, especially the VORW program on YouTube. I must say the long format is something I enjoy, though I do miss the glory days of 2014. On that note, it's hard to believe it's been 3 years of entertainment you've provided for me. Thank you for the truly great content. I decided to write because of a dream I had last night. In it, I guess we were roommates of some sort, and a bunch of our friends were having some sort of going-away party for you, but I was still starstruck as if we hadn't met until recently. One of the logical failures of dreams, I suppose. Either way, I figured it was a sign. Some questions. 1. Have you been having dreams lately? Are they good or bad? Number 1, I haven't really. Well, I've been having dreams every night lately. And, sometimes I wonder if there's other factors that can cause dreams. Like, sometimes I've heard, maybe, anything, it could be, I remember people were saying if they took melatonin, is that how it is? Melatonin? I know one, you know what I mean, right? That kind of helps you. Some people have reported having vivid dreams through that. Anyway, just recently, I started remembering, well, not really remembering dreams, but I know I was having dreams on a nightly basis. And I think you know how it is, and it can be terribly frustrating at times, where you have these dreams every night, and you remember them as soon as you wake up, and you just think, oh, I'll remember it, and not 15 minutes later it's gone, and you know you had a dream, but you don't remember any sort of context thereof. So that's how it's been lately, quite a bit, I would say, where I know I had a dream. They weren't bad dreams, I know that, but I know I had a dream. I just don't really remember the exact subject matter. I mean, I remember a few vague things, but not too much. Had, what is it? Had one dream where, I don't know, I was kind of in the countryside, and all I remember was just kind of, the society was just crumbling. I know, crazy. I wish I could tell you more specifics. It sounds like it was an interesting dream, but I haven't any. I apologize. Which climate do you prefer, upstate or Florida? This is a tough one, but I gotta say Florida. I mean, I know it's crazy because I've been a New Yorker for so long, but the Florida climate is something that I enjoy, I'll tell you that. Now, New York can be very pleasant, okay? And the weather up there can be very nice. But if there's one thing that I don't like, it's the cold. I realize now I like the heat better than I do the cold. And as a matter of fact, I find the heat, and if you would believe this, I find the heat up in New York to be more oppressive than the heat here in Florida. Call me crazy, but that's what I think. It's the cold that drives me crazy, I'll tell you that. Those winters, I remember. There's so much snow, the sub-zero temperatures, the wind chill, the black ice. It's something that I really abhor. I don't like it. It's oh boy, it's just so unpleasant. And then your hands get cold, you can't get them warm. Your feet get cold, you can't get those warm. You're trying to sleep and your feet are just freezing. It's such an unpleasant thing. You have the heat on, that doesn't even warm things up enough. I actually have to turn the stove on and put my hands over the flame to try and keep them warm. It was, those winters are something else. Here in Florida, no snow. It gets cool enough in the winter that you still get to enjoy being able to wear the three-piece suits all the time. Well, I still actually, I should say sweaters and overcoats all the time. It's cool enough you could still wear scarves and some winter wear and kind of enjoy the wintertime attire. But at the same time, there's no snow, no ice, no freezing temperatures. At night, it's always nice and pleasant, always in the 70s. I can wear these short-sleeve dress shirts that I really like wearing all the time. I like the rain every day. It's another thing. I always liked the rain. Whether it was up in New York or here. I always liked the rain. And you get rain every single day here. Isn't that great? I mean, every single day. You get this little interlude where suddenly the sky just darkens, the rain just comes down, you get this little almost misty-like shroud with the rain coming down. Sometimes you get even a whole light show with the lightning. I mean, you get that every day. How much better does it get? And the heat itself down here doesn't even, it doesn't even really bother me. People, I remember they would say, I'll wait until you get the summers in Florida. And, here I am. It says it feels like 110 degrees, but, I walk around in a suit and I'm comfortable. It's like a nice little blanket. As a matter of fact, some days I have this black cardigan sweater. I'll wear a short-sleeve dress shirt and tie, and and then I'll put the black cardigan over that, and I'll just wear that outside even on a 100-degree day, because it's nice and comfortable, feels nice and warm like a blanket, you know. It's not like you're sweating or dying. It's like a nice blanket you're wearing. And then when you go from that heat outside into like a department store or a restaurant or whatever where they have the air conditioning blasting, I always would get freezing cold, so then the sweater is excellent and it's great to have. So you might say, well, there's a greater risk of hurricanes. That may be, but at the same time, you're not immune to hurricanes up north either. You don't get any snowstorms here, no cold, and anywhere from, well, all year round is fine, but it's especially pleasant from, say, October to late May. So I like the climate here. I really do, but you know, sometimes it could be nice to experience the fall and experience some of the seasons. I mean, I'm not one that needs constant change. I could have the same exact thing every day and look at the same thing every day, and that doesn't bother me. That, you know, one day is just as fascinating and exciting as the next. So I'm not one that needs to see something new every day. So as some people say, the lack of change in seasons doesn't bother me at all. But at the same time, I may not like the cold, but I don't despise the climate of New York either. Sometimes I remember, as I realize, when it comes to many things in life, it's never, you know, it's never one or the other. It's just not how it is. There's always many crossovers. And anyone who says it's usually just one or the other, I don't think that's always true. And I think that could be one thing here. I like the climate of Florida probably better than I do New York, but at the same time, there's some things about the New York climate that I do like, you know? May not be things that I would want to experience every day, but there's some things when I kind of think back to them, I realize, you know, I still enjoy that, maybe here and there, like the fall, for instance, you know, being able to see the leaves change and, you know, kind of rake the leaves a little bit, smell those little scents that some of the pine trees can give off, and even just the fall air, the crispness thereof. And always the best is sometimes those fall days or those spring days, especially in the morning when it just starts getting bright out, and you look out the window and it's just this overcast sky with just this cool, thick mist outside. I don't see that too much here, but those days are something that was really to just treasure. I remember there were days when I would wake up early, intentionally, either wake up early or stay up really late, one or the other, to catch those dawn moments and be able to just kind of have the lights off as it gets early and just be able to look out into the gray of all the fog and be able to kind of listen to some radio in the morning, just observing the beauty of nature, in my opinion. And it was always so comfy and beautiful, and it was something I always really liked. And I always like those days. And one other thing, of course, that's irreplaceable is the snow falling in the winter. Now, this is the one thing I like about snow, and that's when it's falling, especially at night. You get to see all the little flakes falling in the glimmer of the street light there. And it slowly accumulates, and it's just so undisturbed and so silent outside. And that's always a very nice experience as well. And, well, then the snow ends, and then that's where the real pain comes in. And that's when you hate snow from that moment on. You could enjoy its beauty first, and then you just come to hate it. But as I said, I like the climate in Florida better overall, but there's some things I do like about both. You know, it's not completely black and white, you can say. And you also ask, what is your favorite kind of bird? Hope all is well from Nick. Thank you, Nick. Favorite kind of bird? That's tough. Well, I like the yard birds the best, those types of birds that you just see. I don't know if that's the name of a band. If it is, I'm not talking about them. The type of birds that you simply would see in your yard at like a bird feeder. I'd say there's 3 distinct types. Again, I don't really have a favorite bird, but I'd say there's probably four birds that I like the best. I like blue jays. They're majestic birds, very, very pretty. If you ever see a blue jay, it's something to admire. But they can be ear-piercingly loud, and that's one drawback. Another bird that I like that's quieter is the cardinal. They're very pretty. They're red. They're very pretty birds as well. And otherwise, I like the mourning doves. I just like how they can just, I think they're kind of cute and silly. They can just waddle around, they waddle around and bob their head, and I like them. They're some of my favorites. And then of course, just your sparrow, just your garden variety sparrow. They're always so, little bouncy creatures, and they're always so cute, and I always like the sparrows, and they always fly around in a little pack, so it seems. Birds are creatures that I really do like. They're very nice, and it's always fun to sometimes just watch the birds, hear their little chirps and calls. Hi Review Bar, let me start this message by saying I love your videos. Hope you continue to make content for as long as you can. Here is a Lil Doggy mixtape cover. Hope you like it. P.S. Please do a freestyle rap video. Oh boy, this one is good. The Lil Doggy mixtape. And that's what seals the deal for me right there. The parental advisory sticker there in the lower left-hand corner. That's what makes it. Right there, that's what makes it, quite frankly. And that got me. As soon as I saw that, I cracked up. That is funny. That's funny. Thank you. Gave me a laugh right there. Mixtape, as they say, I suppose, is on fire, right? And if you asked about a freestyle rap video, well, you're hearing it right now, truth be told. How many others do we have? 1, 2, 3. 3 letters left. And that's it. And then, of course, the statistics and analytics. These are, for the most part, 3 short letters. Dear John, just catching up on the programs we've missed. How's your back been since the injury? Hoping everything is better. Best wishes from Jean and Mary Beth. Thank you both for writing, and I know you guys have sent me emails in the past about some injuries of your own, so I hope Mary Beth is doing better and is recovering from her injuries. My back injury is getting better. The pain itself is gone. There's been some, minor things here and there, but the worst of it has subsided. And that's some good news. Some good news right there. Hi, my name is Abigail, and I'm a huge fan. In your recent videos, you were wearing a Burger King crown. At my high school, it's a tradition for every senior to get a crown and decorate it, and I was wondering if you could sign the one you're wearing and send it to me so that I can wear it for my senior year and have the best crown by default. It would mean the world to me, as I'm your biggest fan. Thank you, from Abigail. P.S. I love all of your ties. They look very spiffy. Well, it doesn't hurt to try to ask, but unfortunately that's a no-go. part of me, as I see the email, it makes me wonder how genuine it may be. Considering the signature, I wonder if it's someone who would literally... I find it valueless, truth be told. That's just my perceived observation of it all. But I think if someone truly got that crown, got it with a signature, I bet they could probably try and sell it on eBay and try and make some money off of it. I bet there's someone out there that would literally try and buy it. For what price, I don't know. But it makes me wonder if it's someone just kind of saying it's for a school project or whatever, and is just simply trying to exploit that for financial gain. Either way, though, it's a no-go. But if you're genuine, it doesn't always hurt to ask. I mean, as I always say, there's two outcomes. Either one, nothing happens. You might not be any better off from the day you asked that, but you're not any worse off. And option two, of course, you get the crown. And of course, you didn't get the crown, but it doesn't hurt to ask. It's something that I see no problem with, truth be told. Again, I don't know if it was genuine or not, but it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't. And this last email, my apologies for the late emails. I work night shift at the hospital and don't sleep normal hours. I wanted to write to you and say thank you for your channel. Thank you for being yourself, most of all. I love listening to your channel regardless of the topic. I've been watching for years, but I finally decided to email. The video where you show off your suits is my favorite of all, though. That helped me so much. You explained how hard it is to make a change and have people accept it. Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that your videos do help some of us. They help calm after an anxious day. They even help me accept myself to stay true to who I am at heart. And I just wanted to say thank you, a forever fan from Chelsea. Thank you, Chelsea. And, well, it's great to hear, I know sometimes, one way or another, I might feel, sometimes I might be getting the short end of the stick, sometimes when I see what's going on with the videos and with all that, but when I really look at it, it's frustrating. I mentioned that, it is, it's frustrating. But I haven't lost hope. And I think this is a good way to conclude it, but I haven't lost hope. There's one thing that really does continue to drive me, even when it looked like some factors of the channel might be suppressed or trying to go down or whatever it is. It's sometimes emails from people that you heard just now in this VORW show that mention how the videos have affected them, have given them courage and motivation in some ways, have helped relax after an anxious day, or have simply provided entertainment and a good avenue for the mind to escape to after a bad day. Whatever it may be, though, it's emails like that that really do, no matter what, really do keep this channel going. It's the truth. I mention it quite a bit. I mention that in every show, but it's a point, again, that I want to reinforce every single time. It's the truth. That's why I always recommend you guys write in. It's always great to hear from all of you and be able to, get your thoughts, views, opinions, and feedback on this channel and the workings thereof. With that, I say, if you are interested in writing into this VORW program, you can email me at repweekinterview1@gmail.com. That's repweekinterview1@gmail.com. If you do write in, your questions, comments, and feedback are most welcome. If this program is relayed on shortwave, reception reports appreciated as well. And finally, I did mention a question. I am curious for all of you. Have you listened to the VORW radio show in the past? If so, how did you listen? That I'm curious about. And on a final note, of course, I hate mentioning it, but please keep in mind if you are interested in supporting this channel, anything via Patreon or PayPal or even just buying the merchandise always helps. This financial situation is, well, I think things are better left unsaid right there, but no matter what, the channel lives on, life goes on, things continue, and so shall I. And with that, we'll just look at the analytics for the last one, show number 149, and then we'll wrap things up, and let's keep those fingers crossed for a brighter tomorrow and a better, another VORW coming up under better circumstances. So let's check the analytics here, and let's see, number 149, there we go. I figure when the views are always higher, the watch time is always lower, and that doesn't surprise me. Okay, let's see this. The retention, there we go. Okay. And this was a long one last time. I don't think this is going to be as long. This last show was 2 hours and 55 minutes. This show, who knows what it'll be. I honestly don't know. So, by 1 minute and 45 seconds, the show was already down to 29% out of 100. So, only 29% by 1 minute and 45 seconds. And that kind of tells it to you right there. Or I think a lot of people kind of misclicked on it. They kind of said, ooh, too long, gone. Downloaded the show, and that was it. I know a lot of people do download it. Or I do know that some people may also have simply found it uninteresting, and that's fine. I make this show for whoever bothers to listen to it, quantity large or small. I just find it interesting to look at the numbers, and I think a few of you do as well. Anyway, by 5 minutes, or by 10 minutes, 16%, still around. By an hour, 11%. So you can see that it was a very, very gradual decline. By 2 hours, we were only down to 9%, so just 2% dropped. And then it dropped at 2 hours, 30 minutes to around 6%, and it just flatlined there through the end. So it was just a very, very steep drop, and it was kind of like, I guess, a reverse hockey stick growth, you know? It just dropped extremely deep, and then it just kind of flatlined, and I guess whoever survived the first minute and 45 seconds essentially survived the rest of the show as well. In terms of the view duration, the folks with the highest view duration were from Aruba, with no one watched the whole thing, no one country did, but they had the highest view duration with 1 hour 29 minutes. So Aruba, and makes me wonder if it was I see Aruba kind of up there on a lot of these. Makes you wonder if there's just a regular listener in Aruba. If you are, and shout out to the Aruban listener. The next country is Chile, and that one had a lot of views actually from there, but the view duration on average is around an hour. So this is actually a really, it looks like the folks in Chile really enjoyed the show. Looks like lots of people watched, and watched for a while. And I know there's actually a few people in Chile who have tuned into the shortwave broadcasts in South America, and a few folks who are who listen online, and I know that there is a number of listeners in that country in South America there that do tune in. And then at 44 minutes 51 seconds, Qatar in the Middle East. I know that country's been making the rounds lately, but welcome. Good to have you here. With the lowest view duration, Gibraltar at 5 seconds. That's the British possession there, the city that is controlled there still. After that is Rwanda at 18 seconds. Radio Rwanda. That was a famous radio station from back in the day. They went off the air, off shortwave back, kind of with a whimper. Back when DW closed their Kigali transmitting station in 2015. They relayed a lot in Rwanda there. They relayed a lot of DW programs to Africa on shortwave, and they also relayed Radio Rwanda, which was played a very big role, of course, in the early 90s during those unfortunate events. But they died out with a whimper, when they just shut the station down. Off went their transmissions, no big announcement or anything. But anyway, the listener there in Rwanda listened for 13 seconds. And then Sudan at 25 seconds. Very interesting selection of countries. I really wish there were such statistics available for shortwave, but part of the fun is just shouting out the email on the air so many times and just seeing who writes in. And that's why, if you ever listen to the radio broadcasts, you might wonder why I tell people to write in so often. That is the reason why. Because there is no comprehensive analytics system for these radio broadcasts, and I do not know the effectiveness thereof, unless, truth be told, someone lets me know that they listened. I always advise people to write in, and write in fairly frequently. Because otherwise, I could always hypothesize, and, assume that people are listening, but if I ever find myself in a financial tight spot where we are right now, I have to look at the brute numbers, and I have to see a broadcast. Well, no one wrote in this week, so I therefore have to assume no one listened, Someone could have wrote in 2 months ago and said they bought a shortwave radio to listen, and then they never wrote in again. I could assume that, they could still listen every week, and I might just not know. But when it comes down to the finances and being able to justify things, when it comes to the brute numbers, I could only prove that they listened just one time. And if someone with a reception report wrote in once, I could only prove that they listened that 1 hour at that 1 week. And I don't have comprehensive statistics. I don't know if this person listened every week, or if they didn't, or if, there could be an entire town full of people listening every single week, and I wouldn't know, and who knows? I don't know who listens and how many people. I can only surmise, really, and guess. But that's why it's always so important to write in for the radio broadcasts. I know you're out there tuned in, and there's enough people that do write in. And I know all these other broadcasts that were still going have very good listening base, and I thank all of you for listening then. I thank all of you for listening right now, and I stay hopeful that even if you only wrote in once, you're still maybe out there tuned in regularly, who knows. It's your life, you could do what you'd like. With that, I conclude this broadcast, the 150th episode of the VORW YouTube program. With that, I hope we shall meet again under better circumstances. Until next time, take care. This is VORW concluded.